What the hell is this? Who did this to my children? And her? The voice roared through the mansion like thunder. The man standing at the door wasn't just. Furious he was broken, it was Ethan Cole, the billionaire CEO who built empires out of ashes. But that night, his world burned before his eyes because there, in the soft glow of the chandelier, were his 6-year-old twins, tied to chairs, their faces stained with tears, asterisk, and next to them, Maria, his maid, his friend, the woman who had practically raised his kids after their mother died. Her wrists were bruised. Her lip was bleeding, and she was tied to the same rope as his children, as if her loyalty was a crime. Ethan's return had been unplanned. He was supposed to be away for another week, closing $1 billion deal in Tokyo. But something in his gut had told him to come home early. His private jet touched down just past midnight. He didn't call ahead. He wanted to surprise the twins. He imagined their giggles, their little feet running across the marble floors shouting, "Daddy's home!" But when he stepped through the door of his mansion, there was no laughter, no staff. No greetings, only silence. The kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. He called out softly, "Maria." No response. He tried again, louder this time. Still nothing, and then he heard it. A muffled sob. From upstairs, his blood ran cold. He dropped his coat and sprinted up the grand staircase, his footsteps echoing like gunfire through the empty halls. When he reached the children's playroom, he froze. The door was locked. From the other side came the faint cry of his daughter. "Daddy!" "Please." That was it. Ethan kicked the door open, and his world shattered. The twins were bound to chairs, their wrists raw from the ropes. Maria was kneeling on the floor beside them, a cloth stuffed in her mouth. 2 men stood over them, his senior staff, men he had trusted for years. One turned, startled. "Sir, this isn't what it looks like." But Ethan didn't wait. He charged forward, knocking the man to the ground with a single punch, untied him. "Now!" he shouted. The other man backed away, hands trembling. "Sir, please, she disobeyed orders. She tried to stop us." "Stop you from what?" Ethan bellowed, his voice shaking with rage. Maria, still gagged, was crying, shaking her head. Trying to speak. Ethan tore the cloth from her mouth. "Sir," she gasped between sobs, "they were trying to take your children." To sell them. Ethan froze. The room seemed to spin. "Sell? My children?" She nodded weakly. "They said you paid a ransom and never know. They planned everything." "I tried to stop them, but her voice broke as she looked at her bruised wrists. For a long moment, Ethan didn't speak. His heart pounded in his ears. And then the mask of calm shattered. He grabbed one of the men by the collar, slamming him against the wall. "You tried to sell my kids? In my house?" He roared. "Do you know who I am? Do you know what I'll do to you?" The man sobbed, stammering for mercy, but Ethan's eyes were pure fire. He called security, the police, everyone, and within minutes, the mansion was swarming with officers. Flashing lights reflecting on the marble floors. As the criminals were dragged away, Ethan stood in the doorway, drenched in sweat and rain, watching as medics tended to his twins and Maria. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. His daughter clung to Maria, whispering, "I was scared, Miss Maria." "But you stayed." That broke him. Hours later, when the house was finally quiet again, Ethan sat across from Maria in the kitchen. She looked fragile, exhausted but still graceful. He couldn't bring himself to meet her eyes. "Maria," he started softly, "I don't know how to thank you." She shook her head. "You don't have to, sir. They're like my own. I give my life for them." He swallowed hard. "You almost did," he said quietly. The words hung heavy between them. Ethan leaned back, staring at his reflection in the dark window. He had spent years chasing money, power, and deals that made headlines. But what was the point? If he couldn't even protect the 2 little souls that called him Dad? He turned to her, voice breaking. "I trusted the wrong people. I thought money could buy loyalty. But you, he paused, searching for the words. You risked everything. For nothing in return. Why? Maria smiled faintly, tears glistening in her eyes, because, sir, love doesn't ask for return. And your wife, God rest her soul, she asked me to take care of them. I promised I would. Ethan's eyes widened. You promised her? She nodded. The day before she died, she said, Maria, if anything happens to me, never leave my children. They'll need someone who loves them like I do. Ethan buried his face in his hands, overcome with emotion. He hadn't known. He'd never asked. Weeks passed. The mansion slowly filled with light again, with laughter, warmth, and healing. The twins smiled again. And Maria? She was no longer just the maid. Ethan had made her the official guardian of his children. He even set up a foundation in her name. Maria's promise to help domestic workers who faced abuse and exploitation. Reporters asked him why. He looked straight into the camera and said, because not all heroes wear suits. Some wear aprons and carry hearts bigger than any fortune. One evening, as the sun set over the Cole estate, Ethan stood at the balcony watching his twins play in the garden. Maria sat nearby, laughing with them, her gentle voice mixing with their joy. He smiled quietly to himself. He had spent years thinking wealth meant power, but that night, he realized true wealth was the people who stood by you when everything else fell apart, and in the end, the billionaire didn't just return home. He returned to truth, to loyalty, to love. Because sometimes, the richest man in the world is the one who finally understands the value of a heart like hers.